Hi guys, my name is Christine, and today I'm talking about rejection after months of dating. So someone asked me to make a video on rejection after months of dating. So there can be a lot of factors, unfortunately, that can play into this. There could be so many reasons as to why someone may reject you after you've been dating for a few months. It could be that they have an ex that comes back into the picture, and because they have stronger feelings for the ex, they go back with the ex. It could be, especially if you don't know the reason for it, like she may or he may have told you the reason why they wanted to not be with you anymore. But there could be a lot of things. It could be they realize that they're just not that into you. They've spent enough time with you to come to that realization. That can be a tough one, especially if you've been, falling for them quite hard and they've actually been doing the opposite and actually being repelled more by you. Again, it's not something that you should take personally, because sometimes you just realize after dating someone that they're just not your cup of tea. And I know I personally experienced this. Like, I remember there being quite a few girls that I was really attracted to at school, but when I got to know them, I realized that I actually didn't like them as, their personality very much. And that kind of put me off. So the more time I spent with them, the more time I got put off by them, just because I didn't really like their personality. That doesn't mean that they didn't have nice personalities. It just means that it wasn't for me, basically. So that's what you've got to see this as. If you've been rejected by someone who has basically lost interest in you, it might be just because, you're just not their cup of tea, and that's fine. It's fine to have preferences. It's fine to be put off by people over time. So, for example, when I was doing my A-levels as well, there was a girl that I thought was quite nice. And then it turned out she was quite a bully. Like, she looked really nice. She looked really pretty, but she was actually quite a bully, said things that are a bit not very nice and about other people. And I just sort of like, yeah, I'm not sure about you now, because I just didn't like that. So, that kind of thing does happen. So this is something else to consider as well. And, one of the relationships I was in about 7 years ago, at least I think it was 7 years ago, there was a girl that I was dating, and it started off really well. I really liked her. We was dating sort of together for about 3 months, and I figured out she was a compulsive liar. She just lied about loads of different things, and that put me off. She was beautiful, but she was also a compulsive liar, and it really put me off of her. So, for example, she said once to me about a story. She told me a story about, I think, about her dad looking after kids. Like, he was babysitting, and she gave like a little performance about it. Actually, not like a performance like someone standing on stage, but she had like punchlines basically, and the next week she told me the exact same story, but the same punchlines, but it was a different person. And I was like, you told me, I didn't say this to her, but I was thinking, I was like, you told me this exact same story last week, but now it's with different people. What is with that? So after that experience, that's when I realized that I could not continue dating her, because she was just lying so much. There was other things as well, like a bunch of serious things that she'd lied about as well. She was telling me that she had adopted siblings, which she did not have. I found out that kind of information from his sister. So yeah, there was just a lot of things that didn't add up, and she was just a compulsive liar. Maybe she had a few mental issues, I'm not sure. But to begin with, it felt like everything was great. Again, that's something else that may happen. It may happen to you. You may go out on a date with someone, realize, you think that they're really cute, but when you get to know them and you start knowing things about their personality, you might realize that it's just not for you. Now, again, like if this happens to you and you get rejected by someone and it's because that they've just gone off you, don't take it too personally. Try not to take it too personally, because it's probably just a preference thing. But that doesn't mean that you cannot find someone to be with. Just because this one person rejected you after a few months doesn't mean that every person's going to have the exact same experience with you, okay? So one of the most common things that I see happening when this sort of thing happens, when you get rejected after a few months, is that the most common thing is that the person that gets rejected is the one that is more invested, so the one that's falling in love much faster, okay? So basically, you become too needy. Now, I'm not saying that's your situation, as in the person who commented on this, but that's usually the most common reason. So basically, one starts falling in love way too fast, much more faster than the pace of the person who isn't quite there yet. And unfortunately, that's what goes down. Like they realize the other person's getting really needy, is way more invested, and the attraction just sort of like deflates because they just know that this person's in love with them and they haven't got to that point yet. So the point is that when you start dating someone, you have to kind of, if you are someone like me who falls in love really, really, really fast, right, you have to go at the pace of the person that you're dating. So for example, when I met my wife, she was really shy at first. So I knew I needed to tone things. I had to really dial things back because I thought she was gorgeous. I thought she was amazing. I wanted to be in a relationship instantly. I'm just one of those people, right? I go from 0 to 100, or how I always have done. So I've learned to actually have to reel back my feelings and go at the person that I'm dating's pace. So with my wife, she was really shy at first. And I realized, like, okay, it's going to take her a couple of dates to warm up to me. So let's just take things slow. And so that's what I did. We just dated, we hanged out, had good chats, got to know each other. And when she started to warm up to me, and well, when she started, because the thing is with shy women, right? Usually what they need someone who is really funny, and they need someone who doesn't mind being goofy and being themselves. Right, because what I realized about my wife is that she is actually very goofy herself. She's very silly, likes to do silly little things, has these little silly things about her, has a very funny personality. And basically what I needed to do is I needed to facilitate her to actually let her guard down and to be herself, be her true authentic self. And the best way you can get a shy person to open up to you, so let's say you go on a date with someone who's really shy, is to let your guard down, is to open her up with humor, by being funny, by being yourself, by not taking the date too seriously, by not taking her too seriously. So you're just there having fun, having a good time, and you're not trying to make things too serious. And that's what I realized I needed to do with my wife when I met her, because she was quite shy and closed up. And even though she was really attracted to me, because she did say later down the road, like, oh yeah, I thought you intimidated me because you were cool and I thought you were cool and stuff like that. And that's the first time I ever heard something like that from someone. I never considered myself very cool. So that was a funny situation for me. That was a kind of a weird moment. But anyway, like, the point is that when you're with someone that's very shy, you need to dial it back. You really need to dial it back and give them time to warm up to you, to get comfortable around you, so they can let their guard down and be themselves. And that's typically what you kind of need to think of as well when you are really, really into someone and you can tell they're not quite there yet. And you can tell that by the fact that they probably don't respond to you very often, even though you can get them out on a date, which is a good thing. Like, if someone likes you, they will show up to a date, even if you don't talk to them that much throughout the week. Someone that likes you will always show up to a date. So if you've got a situation like that where they always show up to the date, but they don't really talk to you that much, let's say they're not responding as fast as you would like them to because you're really invested in them and they're not as invested in you, then you need to dial it back. You need to go at their pace. You need to match and mirror what they're doing. So if they respond to you every 5 hours, then maybe you respond to them every 5 or 6 or 7 hours, so something like that. Just dial it back. And when you're hanging out with them, if they're not ready to have a hug or to hold your hand, then don't do it. Like, obviously, if you're crossing the street, it's obviously a good idea to at least link arms or hold each other's hands or something like that. But when it's something like, you're just sitting next to each other on a date and you reach out to hold their hand, they might not be ready for that yet. The best way to tell if someone is ready to be touched physically is if they're physically touching you. So that means they might be bumping into you, they might touch your arm when you're talking. Then you know it's okay to give them a hug, to hold their hand. And if they're looking at your lips a lot, that they might be when you're talking to each other, basically, if you're quite close to them and you can see the direction of their eyes, if they're looking into your eyes and down at your lips and into your eyes and then at your lips again, that means they want to be kissed, okay? So go for it and kiss them, okay? But the point is that you need to dial it back, because the most common reason why people get rejected after a few months is because they got way too invested too soon. So you need to really dial it back. Try not to message them as much. Message them. You only use the phone, basically, only use messaging tools as a means to meet up. right? As a communication device to arrange times to get together rather than to chit chat, because sometimes that can make things really boring and can put someone off you, especially when you're messaging someone. You know, so much miscommunication can happen, okay? So that's the main reason why that sort of thing can happen. I hope this video was informative to you. Thank you so much for watching. If there's anything else you'd like me to discuss in a future video, then please leave it down in the comments. And if you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.